And we are back. We got a 5-game slate to talk about here on Thursday. Before we do, though, if you guys are new, my name is DK. Cover content for NBA, NFL, XFL, and for Prize Picks. Prize Picks, they are the sponsor. Make sure to use the code DKDFS for a 100% match up to $100. Had an absolutely massive day on Prize Picks today. Looking like we're going to go 8-1 overall. The one miss getting hooked by Hero Rebounds, who lost massive minutes because of a random blowout. So I am on full tilt mode there, but we started the ladder challenge. Day 1, we hit that. Looking pretty good on the Prize Picks YouTube video I made last night as well. And yeah, so it was a really good day overall on Prize Picks. Again, make sure to use that code. If you're not familiar, you build 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 6 player props, can win up to 25x your money. So that's the recap there. Now let's recap my lineup here tonight. So another really good night. We're just riding the hot streak here, and we got unlucky. Well, lucky but unlucky, if that makes sense. Okay. So I got overtime in the Spurs-Mavs game. I had a lot of exposure to that game. Keldon Johnson fouled out, and Devontae Graham went for a grand total of 0 fantasy points at 3% ownership in overtime. And Domantas Sabonis looked like he was going to get overtime at no ownership, and Fox decides to nail a buzzer beater 3. Like, come on, man. Actually, come on. Like, you can't make that up. So I finally get lucky with overtime, and both my lower owned players get a donut. Keldon fouls out, nothing from Devontae Graham. I once again pivoted off the nuts. I had Kevin Porter Jr. and I had Wenyen Gabriel here, but I pivoted because Wenyen Gabriel is not starting. I was expecting Wenyen Gabriel to start. He did not. So I pivoted to Vanderbilt and Graham, and that once again cost me the massive money. So no surprise, right? There's just no surprise. Back-to-back days where I've swapped off the nuts. It's just unreal. It's just unreal. But yeah, so going over my lineup, here, I'll get out of the way so you guys can see. But yeah, I went to contrarian Devontae Graham because I got to pivot off Wenyen Gabriel. If Wenyen Gabriel just started, I had Kevin Porter Jr. at low. Like, oh, I'm so mad. D'Lo was massive chalk and high stakes as he should have been. He was a letdown though. Keldon Johnson smashed even though he fouled out right away in overtime. Vanderbilt smashed at low ownership. Sabonis smashed at low ownership, even though he didn't do much in the last 5 minutes. Hardy started slow but smashed. Josh Green smashed. And Sandro Mamuklish-Faley smashed. So that was the recap there. Hoping to keep it going. Again, phenomenal day on Prize Picks. Good day on DFS. Could have been a great day if it didn't swap off the nuts for the second straight day. And yeah, let's see if we can keep it going for this 5-game slate. And hope you guys had a great night. Let's do it. So Denver and Detroit's the first game here. For Denver, you got Jamal Murray, who is probable, so should be fully healthy. I like the ceiling a lot on Jokic and Jamal Murray. The question is, do you think this Pistons team can keep it competitive? If the answer is yes, I think one of Jokic or Jamal Murray will have a really big game. So I like both the main guys here for Denver. I think Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. are fine like filler plays. I'm not going to prioritize either when this team's fully healthy. But can these guys have good games playing alongside Jokic and Murray? Yeah, we've seen it. We've seen a couple of big games from Gordon. We've seen back-to-back close to 40 fantasy point games from Michael Porter Jr. So they're reasonable filler options. KCP's at a price point where it's just like, yeah, last man in feels a little bit overpriced right now for a 3-and-D guy, but if he knocks down shots, he can get you there. The rest of Denver, Bruce Brown should play low to mid-20s minutes off the bench. Reggie Jackson will play the backup point. Thomas Bryant will play the backup 5. Again, the issue I have with Reggie and Bryant, too, even if the game blows out, is they still have like another group of guys they can get to at the very end. Like they dust off like Ish Smith or like Peyton Watson. Like they have a lot of guys. So I don't even know if I can play that blowout factor because I don't even know if those guys would play a ton of minutes in the blowout. Now, on the Detroit side, so they're once again shorthanded, but they do have Jaden Ivey back. Livers is still out. No Bojan, no Bagley, no Stewart, no Diallo, no Burks, no Cade. So I think the starting lineup is going to be Hayes, Ivey, Magruder, Mourier, and Wiseman. And that being said, I mean, the ceiling is high in the two guards in Hayes and Ivey. I wouldn't call either priorities, though. There's another thing I'll mention, too, with these guys is they can close in blowouts. We saw that with Killian Hayes last game, so it's not every time they're going to, but they definitely can. Wiseman and Duran are going to split the center position. Obviously, there's foul risk going up against Jokic, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of these centers has a really big game if one gets into foul trouble. And then for value, Amorie got banged up and ended up coming back in. As long as he's good to go, no limitations and starts, I think he's still a reasonable option. Magruder 5K feels a bit pricey. Not the best point per minute guy and actually absolutely needs the mitts to be there. So that's what I think the starting five will be. You'll see Duran off the bench. You'll see Kojo off the bench. You'll see Hampton off the bench. And you might see a little bit of Boeheim rode in. Corey Joseph at 4.9 with Ivy and Hayes both healthy. More of a secondary play. RJ Hampton dealt with some foul trouble. Still was awful in that time. Probably can't go there. So that is the Pistons. Let's move on to Oklahoma City and Toronto. So tough matchup here for the Thunder, but I think Shea at 9.6 is still playable. Now, some of the minutes are wrong. I think it's the Thunder and the Nets. I was scrolling through. I was like, I don't think Shea played 77 minutes. But yeah, I think he's still a little bit too cheap at 9.6. Giddey had another big game with SGA, and I think he's reasonable. And Jalen Williams, the guard, had another big game. He has really, really stepped it up. He's shooting well, but I wouldn't call Giddey and Williams like must-plays. They're more filler options. Isaiah Joe, minutes have not been great of late. He's more of a tournament-only play if he hits his shots. Lou Dort probably sees, I don't know, low 30s minutes. He had a bit of an outlier game last game. If you want to mess with the bigs, you can with like the big Jalen Williams and Saric and Ousmane Dieng. You're never going to feel good, but if you want to take a dart with those guys in tournaments, you can. Moving on to Toronto, just wanted to say how incredibly happy I am for Fred VanVleet. Wow, good job, Fred. 60 bomb last game. Yay! When I play, best possible matchup. No way! It's the Scotty Barnes show. It's OG. It's everyone but Fred. Woohoo! I hate this team. I really, really hate this team. All 5 starters are in play. If the game is competitive, at least one will have a good game. Good luck trying to figure out who it's going to be. There's the breakdown. Let's move on. No, all right, I'll try to break down a little bit more. Like VanVleet, probably the guy right now with the highest ceiling. He's gone for 47, 56, and 59 in 3 of the last 5 games. He's sub 9K. Siakam's been absolutely awful, but the minutes are still there for him. He's 8.4K. That's the cheapest price point I've seen in Siakam in a long time if you want to try to buy low. Scotty Barnes, OG. These guys are guys that can never, ever get right, but they're going to play a ton of minutes. Jakob Poeltl, priced now above 7K, but still has shown a ceiling. He's gone for 40 in basically 3 of the last 5 games. My boy Boucher at 3.3 probably sees around 10 minutes on the bench. Don't think it's necessary. Achua should see minutes on the bench, but again, not a ton. The only guy that's seeing big minutes on the bench right now is Gary Trent Jr., who if he knocks down shots can have a ceiling, but he shot 2 of 11, 0 of 9, and 3 of 9 in the last 3 games. Sacramento, Brooklyn, probably my favorite game to target on the slate. 2 teams that are going to play fast, 2 teams that run tight rotations. So, yeah, once again, I played Sabonis back-to-back slates. He came through in a big way both times. I like him again here. I think he's going to be not super, super popular. De'Aaron Fox, sub 9K, always seems to take over in the 4th, but be quiet through 3 quarters. So the 2 main guys for the Kings I like. The wings, Herter, Barnes, and Murray. They're all reasonable options. Again, usually whoever's playing the worst out of that group gets benched. It's been Murray recently. It can be Herter. It hasn't been Barnes, so I would say Barnes is probably your safest bet, but I do like the ceiling a bit more on Herter and Murray. Monk, minutes fluctuate, production fluctuates, but if he plays well, the ceiling is there. You do have Trey Lyles back, who I actually think is a pretty safe value right now. He's playing like 20 minutes a game. I think he's a pretty good play. You saw Kessler Edwards play a bit more last game with no Trey Lyles, but with Lyles back, I can't go there. So let's move on to Brooklyn. Love the matchup for them. I like Bridges. I like Dinwiddie in a competitive game. I expect close to 40 minutes for both. So the price points are up a bit on them, but I still like the ceiling a lot on both. Nick Claxton, he should play around 30 minutes and is a reasonable option in a good matchup. Cam Johnson, when I finally faded, he actually avoided the locker room and played 39 minutes and smashed. Yeah, good play in the mid-range. Royce, Dorian Finney-Smith, these guys will see rotation minutes. I think both are fair plays. I wouldn't prioritize either. And I'm not going to get to anyone else on this team. So, yeah, Sacramento, Brooklyn, a game that I think looks really good. Now, the Pacers, this is a headache. Come on, man. So we got no Mathurin, no Duarte. You got McConnell questionable. You got Halliburton questionable. You got Turner questionable. You got Hield questionable. I believe Halliburton, McConnell went through practice. I think Turner and Hield did too. If they all did, I'm expecting them all to play. Now, there is some risk here, but the ceiling would be high in Halliburton. The ceiling would be high in Turner. Nembhard is way too pricey. Jackson's way too pricey. Smith's way too pricey. But I would say it would mainly be the top guys I would look to if all these guys are in. If they're all out, then it's a similar story. We're going back to Nembhard and the bigs with Jackson and Smith. Naismith and War would look better. So there would be plays here for sure if all these guys miss again, but it's looking like a majority of them are going to be back. And if that's the case, a lot of these secondary guys priced up, so it'd probably just be the main guys I'd be interested in. For Milwaukee, you got Grayson Allen out, Jay Crowder probable, Brook Lopez questionable with ankle soreness. So if Brook Lopez misses, I just assume you're going to get Bobby Portis in the starting lineup. If that's the case, a 6.5K Portis, like 30-ish minutes, I think he would look pretty good. I like Giannis if you think the Pacers can keep the game competitive. He's going to play mid-30s minutes and do everything for the team. I think Drew and Middleton are a bit pricey with Giannis healthy. Not a ton else. I mean, you probably get Carter or Connaughton in the starting lineup for Grayson Allen. So, Giannis, Drew, Middleton. If it's Lopez healthy, then it's him. If not, it'll be Bobby Portis. And then one of Carter or Connaughton probably start for Grayson Allen. If it's Connaughton, I like him a little bit more. If it's Carter, not as much, but still would be playable. And then Joe Ingles should see decent minutes off the bench, 4.2. He's been consistently playing mid-20s minutes. I think he's a decent value. All right, and finally, Orlando and Phoenix. So this game does have a little bit of blowout risk, but we got the late night hammer standalone. Gary Harris is questionable. That's somewhat significant. If Gary Harris misses, you should get Jalen Suggs in the starting lineup and should get a minutes bump for Cole Anthony. But the issue is the price points are up in them. 5.4 for Cole and 4.9 for Suggs. As far as the main guys go, Paolo Banchero, fine contrarian spend up. Wendell Carter Jr. is just always there as the last piece in for me. Should play around 30 minutes. Kind of the same thing with Franz Wagner at 6.1. Markelle Fultz, has those pop-off games, but usually is hovering around, 30-ish fancy points. So there's nothing that stands out to me in the Orlando Magic, but there are guys that are playable. Mo Wagner most likely sees the backup 5 run, 4.4. Might see a little bit of Bull, but Orlando, relatively unappealing team. And finally, Phoenix. So still no Kevin Durant. Craig probable. I think the main guys look pretty good here for Phoenix. You got Booker at sub 10K. You got Paul at 7.5, Ayton at 7.4. All three were relatively quiet last game against Milwaukee. Ayton did deal with some foul trouble, but this is a nice bounce back spot for all three. We're in a competitive game. I would expect mid to high 30s minutes from them. So like Booker, like Paul, like Ayton, I think a Koji at 5.1 probably sees mid 30s minutes and is a reasonable last piece in. Torrey Craig, Terrence Ross, they're going to split the power forward position. Craig, a little bit safer, a little bit more confident in those minutes. Ross, a little bit of a lower floor, but probably the higher ceiling if you can knock down his shots. The issue is he really struggled with those shots back-to-back games. Campaign, he'll play the backup point. He'll play, whatever Chris Paul does not play, and he's not a bad point per minute guy. So I don't hate him. They're kind of going back and forth with Lando and Biyombo. I don't necessarily trust that. You'll see some Damian Lee. You'll see some Ish Wainwright, but I guess in a blowout, those guys could have get extended. I still don't know if I can pull the trigger on them. So yeah, it was a relatively shorter video today since there's only 5 games, but that's going to do it. Again, guys, if you do enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Keep it out for the Prize Picks content. Had a phenomenal day today. Hoping to keep it going. And yeah, hoping to keep this hot streak going in DFS too. So appreciate the support as always, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.